I think that we should start now, so it is 7:05 p.m., and I will call to order the meeting at this time. We have posted our meeting notice at the bulletin board more than 48 hours in advance, and we established that we have a quorum with 4 board members: Mike Gesualdi, Regina Roxy, Brittany Young, and Lisa Adams. If anybody is recording this meeting, can you please state so now?
There is only one person ultimately responsible for this. We all know who it is. Caitlin Collins is out front here.
Okay, Chuck, do we have any protocol on conference calls?
People that we've spoken with have said the president is going to be following and asked him for several days. We haven't actually.
Yes, just that we're going to keep everybody muted until such time as it comes to the open forum. And Mike can go through the list and call people out, and or we get to some of the board business here if anything is opened up for conversation. At least we don't have crosstalk and feedback due to technical issues.
If anybody who's recording the meeting, were they able to respond?
I had no verbal responses, sir.
Well, we thought they were on mute, so I'm going to ask again if anybody is...
Oh, stand by. I will. Okay. 1 second here. Let me...
Thank you.
I apologize.
No problem.
Let me see if this works.
But also, the president is still dealing with the fallout from his response to that attack on the U.S. Capitol. So we've heard from several people who say they do not want to go, even though they got an invitation from the White House.
I'm hitting the unmute all, and it's not unmuting all.
Oh, that's not good.
So, and my particular chat function says that it's disabled. I don't know why. 1 second.
But Aaron, first, we are expecting that list of pardons to come out tomorrow, according to the White House so far, and it should include about 100 people on it. That will include some of the president's political.
Okay, we'll do this the old-fashioned.
Which is a wedding crasher there, I guess. Let's say about the people who listen to humorous on some level. All right, out front now, Lawrence Tribe, one of the nation's preeminent constitutional law experts. He has been advising the House Democrats on impeachment. He's also the author of To End a Presidency, The Power of Impeachment. So, Professor, here Lindsey Graham's...
Everyone's able to unmute themselves if they have to.
Ms. Glover is unmuted on her own, it appears, so I'm going to assume that anybody that's muted is of their own doing.
Capable of unmuting themselves.
I don't have a way to unmute everybody. I'm clicking on their settings and I can't unmute them.
Typically, the organizer can only mute everyone. They can't unmute everyone. So you have to unmute yourself, and that's good to know for open forum as well.
Right.
Okay. So the process when they unmute themselves is they take their...
Just as a test here, Mr. and Mrs. Bailey are in. Are you going to be able to chat on your own? Are you going, there we go. Okay, I'm going to assume everybody can control their own on their side, Mr. President.
Very, very good. Okay, then I'm satisfied. Again, I'll just one more time. Anybody video conferencing these calls need to state that now.
Very close to this presidency, and I don't think that will wash either.
Okay. All right, we can proceed then. We've established a quorum, we have proof of notice, and we call the meeting to order at 7:05. So at this time, I'd like to move on to item number 2, the Secretary's report. This should be review and approve the minutes of previous meetings.
But the free speech, right, does it protect him at all here?
Not at all.
Everybody get a copy of the December 21st minutes in one of the multiple mailings that I sent you.
Yeah.
I couldn't persuade myself.
Are there any questions or any changes, edits, or revisions that anybody caught that need to be done?
Theater, to use the old metaphor.
I reviewed, I don't have anything that I picked up.
No, Chair.
That's what this guy did. This wasn't just speech in any way.
I get,
Freedom of speech
Brittany,
belongs to
anything?
Citizens. It doesn't belong to the.
No, I'm sorry.
Government.
That's okay. Thank you. All right, so I think we're good with that. And is there any report to be given?
Motion, sir,
Yes,
approve those as written.
yes. I'd like to call for a motion to approve the minutes of the meeting with the Board of Directors for December 21st, 2020. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from December 21st, 2020.
So Gina approved the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
And Lisa Adams seconded that motion.
Thank you. And then a vote.
All in favor? Say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any nays?
No.
So that is approved.
Thank you.
And at this point, we can move on to the open forum for unit owners. And you may discuss anything that is part of the agenda at this time. Do we have anyone?
I'm not sure what order you see on your screen, sir. Would you like me to pop out as I see
Yeah,
them?
go ahead.
Okay.
That'd be fine, thank you.
And also understanding if there's any reason why somebody cannot chime in on audio, please find a way to let us know. According to my screen, Mr. Napawaki is first.
I have no comments. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Miss Dant.
Legal fees from Trump is going to try to earn them by charging people for pardons. There's a lot of bribery.
I have no comments.
Thank you. Miss Galassi.
Co-conspirators, the people who work with you.
Yeah, are we supposed to ask only questions about the agenda?
Yes.
The use of the pardon power.
No, I had 2 questions, but not on the agenda, so I will just wait. Thank you.
Issued and may well get issued.
Michael, do you want to handle that here since that's open?
To obstruct justice. He pardons himself. That will not.
When you say that,
But it will also
what do you mean now?
reinforce the kind of.
Well, it's open forum, so it's agenda items, but where else would she have the opportunity? So,
Okay, if she'd like to act, all right, then that's fine, we can go ahead.
Miss Galassi?
Yes, I had 2 questions, and I went through all the documents, and I didn't see if there was an amendment, but my understanding is that cars in the carports have to be registered or with a license or something up to date, and I assume insured. Has that been changed in some amendment that I missed, or is that still
Of the office, and he loves to hear
current?
and flourishes, so maybe he'll get to hear it one last.
Was that question about anywhere on the property? You said something about carports. I'm sorry.
Carport, in the carport?
People at the White House, and this person said to me.
Yeah, I can answer that.
Okay.
And to the best of my knowledge, yes, your vehicle would still be registered and insured and in good operating condition.
So if there's a car that has been for 2 years without a license plate, that is not in accordance to the rules and regulations, correct?
That would be correct.
Okay, just wondering. And my next question is that I noticed that the lights were set up on that pole by the entrance. Was that on a bid? Are we still bidding like 3 bids and the best bid, or was that just done before I came down and saw the change?
So are you talking about the light that's on the tall monolith right in front of the development?
Yes.
Okay, that light was repaired. It didn't require us to have rebids due to the cost of it. Chuck, am I correct in that?
Yeah, we were doing an electrical repair, other
Repair.
other repairs on lighting and electrical outlets at the entryway.
So I hope it was not a very big expense.
No, it's not a very big expense, no.
Will we ever see how much it cost?
It'll be in a budget.
Thank you.
Right.
It's amazing, Gloria, because
Did you want to add anything to that, Joe?
he was criticized all the
No,
time
sir.
in press conferences.
Okay, very good.
The guy would always stop to have questions.
Miss Bailey.
Now it's only videos.
Hey, I'm mostly just here to listen in. I'm curious about the termite stuff, since that's
Okay.
affecting our unit. So, thanks.
Thank you. Mrs. Glover?
I'm good for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Carmen, I do not have a last name, and may I trouble you for your address, please?
Hi, Chuck. I'm in Unit 1076B. My last name's Foster. Yeah, I think everything affects my unit. I've got a pretty bad infestation. I'm on the top floor. It sounds like I have upstairs neighbors. So I think I have rats, bats, and termites, and probably some ceiling roof damage as well.
Okay, I'm going to, I would be happy to help you with that. I would ask if you could either send me an email directly, if you have my email address, or else go into the portal and create a couple of, or at least a work order, just so that I can bring that up and get contact with you, and we can send those items to the appropriate service vendor.
I do appreciate it. Both have been done.
Okay. Good deal. Thank you. I will check into that. I'll make a note here. Okay.
Thank you.
Michael, Carolyn, and David.
Did you hit the mic for 1058B?
I'm so sorry. My head and I thought you. I'm so sorry, Michael.
That's fine. That's fine. We need mics and Michael's in here. Hey, nothing on the agenda, but I just I have a question about how when you have a work order and you enter it in the portal, how long does it take you guys to get back with us with answers? Reason I'm saying that because I did call the office. I have an issue with my fireplace on the outside. The lady at the office suggested that I go into the portal and upload my comment, but I haven't heard anything from you guys.
I will take responsibility for that because I thought that I had sent you an email response a couple of weeks back because we were calling around trying to, you have a chimney cap issue, as I recall, and also looking for some references for chimney cleaning. Correct me if I'm wrong. And yeah, I had sent it. I thought I did send an email to say that I'm having a really hard time with finding a vendor that would do chimney cap repairs or inspections, and that's after going through general contractors, roofers, and a couple of chimney sweep type companies in town. And I don't know if it was you, but somebody had left a message about asking if it was possible to put something out on the broadcast email to ask if anybody would like to if any of the other homeowners would like to get together to, as a group to get cleaning services done. Would that be correct?
Yeah, that was me, but I haven't heard any. I guess I didn't get your email back or answer.
I will double check on that one for you, sir. I apologize if you did not. But there's the status, at least on chimney caps. And as far as cleaners, personally, the short time that I've been here, I haven't come across any specific names of companies, but the cleaning's done by the individuals, so the
Right.
unit owners. So I don't know if out of there's a good number of people here tonight. Perhaps somebody has some feedback on cleaning service.
Okay. What about the chimney caps? Did you say that was something that the association?
I'm still looking to see if there's any provider and vendor, and I actually have a couple of other units that have indicated they have some sort of a problem, like a leak down into the chimney, or that a cap has been reported as being disengaged. So I'm trying to find somebody that's qualified to do not only the repair, but if they need replacement. And part of the problem, I think what I'm finding in discussion is that some of these are potentially original to the construction of the buildings, which puts them almost 45 years old, and they're just not made. And, the existing mounting brackets for those, if I understand it correctly, are possibly going to require something to be fabricated and not something that they can just go buy off of the shelf. But I haven't done a deep dive into that to confirm everything. That's just from a couple of different conversations that I've had with contractors.
Right.
So I don't have an answer at the moment. I don't know what the past history at the community has been with that. And in the time that I've been here so far, I have not come across any information in files or old records just yet. But I'm still looking. So
Thanks.
New tonight, Rudy Giuliani will not be defending President Trump. That is the second impeachment trial.
Okay. Thank you.
okay, Ms. Demers.
He can't be part of the president's legal team because he spoke at the January 6th rally, preceded the right of the Capitol, and is therefore a witness. That's also someone I really.
Anything for you guys?
Who did you call Miss Peters?
Ms. Demers, Ms. Carolyn.
I thought it wasn't me.
So sorry.
Carolyn David?
By the decision by the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, to actually formally transmit the article of impeachment over to the Senate to begin the Senate trial. That article, of course, was approved by bipartisan majority in the House last week.
Carolyn or David?
Cited insurrection, and if 17 Republican senators join with 50 Democrats in the Senate.
Michael, skip over and go to. I've got Mr. Bailey up separately.
Yeah. Let's do that. Let's skip over that.
Okay.
Derek Bailey?
The next day, and it comes just as Joe Biden is coming into office.
Sorry, I'm having some audio issues on my headset. I don't have anything at the moment to speak, but considering that the bats and termites is on the agenda today, I might have something to add after that. Sorry, go ahead.
I think this would be the time where you would speak about that, too.
Okay, fair enough. We've been living here for about 3 years now, and we've had infestations of both the entire time. And that's after dealing with Massey every termite season and getting them to wipe out every spot that they can find in the house.
Chuck, do we have Massey recommendations, or is that one of the buildings we have?
Stand by. I'm going to. I need to go flip and look for a map real quick.
Next, building 6, right? Is that correct?
We're at 1038.
Yeah, that would be building 6. Yeah, 1038, you're building 6.
Yeah, so some movement on that would be greatly appreciated.
Okay, Chuck, you have noted that, right?
Yes, sir. Mr. Bailey, you have an issue right now with what looks like the drywood termites, just so I can clarify?
Yes, that's correct. I actually found one of their kick-out holes last night. A new one.
Okay, can you tell me a location? Like, not that we need to do this in front of everybody, but just give me bedroom, living room, dining. Where's it at?
In the master bedroom.
Okay, what we're doing with the service calls for Massey now is they go through management so that we can track them, and we put a service call into Massey and or Truly Nolan if you're in the other building that Truly's servicing, and then we provide your contact information to them so they can get with you, make an appointment to come and inspect and treat as needed. So I make sure that I get that underway tomorrow.
Please, and I do believe there's another infestation out on the side patio for the side door. I'm seeing a lot of frass there as well. At this point, I've had infestations in literally every part of the house.
Okay.
I feel like I'm playing whack-a-mole.
Okay, but you said something about bats as well. You
Yes,
think that issue right now?
in my upper bedroom. They're in the wall, and they've been there for 3 years.
But it would be required, right, in order for him to not be able to serve in office again, right? So that would be a practical reason for going ahead with what you're going ahead with, separate from any moral reasons.
Okay.
I do consider myself a patient man, but 3 years is pretty
You
frustrating.
sound like you are a patient man, yes. But I don't want you to have to be that patient, so
Yeah.
we'll handle that.
Okay.
Mrs. Voss.
Yeah, I don't have anything at this time.
Ms. Peters?
Now it's me. Hello, hi. Will we get a chance to talk after the meeting, or it's only now?
No, this is the open forum now, so this
Okay,
is your
I'll-
opportunity to.
All right, I have 3 minutes. Didn't mean to cut you off. I understand you're going to be talking about parking, and I posted. We have, I guess, a Facebook post, but parking. I don't have a problem with parking, but I have a problem with people who are parking loud cars right outside my door that don't live anywhere in the vicinity of where I live. So maybe it is a parking issue, but I'm not sure. Stop it, Chloe.
It's not parking as much as it's a neighbor-to-neighbor issue that management can help try to alleviate. So I'm in receipt of your email regarding that particular issue, and if we can identify the specific unit those cars, the drivers of those cars belong to, it's easier for me to try to help with that situation. Can't guarantee it, but we can at least notify the other parties of the concern.
Okay, I will try to find that out too, and I will send you an email when I do. That's it.
Okay. And then, Ms. McCready.
Hello, yes. I have a question about the agenda and then a few off of the agenda. One of them is the fire sprinkler system. Is that every building or is that only select buildings?
Actually, only select buildings, as I myself learned.
I'm sorry, you're breaking up. I
Not
can't hear
every
you.
building, right, not every building needs the fire installed, and that's confirmed with the fire sprinkler company.
Chuck, can you, Carolyn and David, they're gonna,
On the day that members of Congress are supposed to be certifying the election constitutional duty.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Chuck and, Carolyn and David's mic is giving me back. And potentially Mike's. There's a happening.
Thank you. You take care. And next, stunning video of the mob as it stormed the Senate chamber and the rioters.
We're getting a little
Carolyn
feedback.
and David are trying to talk, and it sounds like you're trapped in a unproof box. David, it sounds like you're whispering to us from a mile away.
Research shows people remember commercials with nostalgia. So to help you remember that little customizes your home insurance, here's one that'll really.
Wow, what'd you get, Ryan? Customized
Ms. McCready and take care of her concerns, and then we can come back to Ms. Deemers.
If you guys want to text me, I can talk for you.
This is David. I'm sorry.
You can go ahead. As Chuck said.
French onion dip. I'm going to start the bidding at $5. Thank you, sir. $6 over there.
Did I lose Mike Jeswaldi?
Chuck, at this point?
Chuck, our phone shows that it's muted, but it's not muting there on the screen.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm still trying to touch base with Miss McCready.
Yes, I'm here. I'm just waiting.
Okay. So sprinklers are not in every building. They're in 9 of the buildings, according to the list that I have. So you may not have, may not be in yours. So,
Yeah, my question for that was more so, how come it's not in every building?
Good question, but to the original design. So I don't know the actual answer to that at the moment.
Okay, because it just seems like some places may be safer, but like my building seems at risk because we don't have that feature. So
It's on the 3-story building.
Only on the 3-story.
Yeah. Townhomes. Not all of our buildings have townhomes, and apparently during the original construction, the buildings with the townhomes are the only ones that were fire sprinkled.
Okay. And then my other question was, as far as a while back, I placed, I guess, to have tiles put on the front of the doorstep, like the landing. And I'm going to resubmit that again now since they fixed my stairs. And I was just wondering if there was any requirement on the thickness, because that seemed to have stopped the approval last time.
Okay, I kind of remember when that came up, and I believe it had something to do with the stairwell being rebuilt. And I thought you were putting that, that it was, once the stairwell was rebuilt, that you weren't going to do that. Am I correct?
Well, correct, and they didn't rebuild the landing. So they did fix the stairs, but if the landing was not getting replaced, which it did not, I said that I wanted to move forward with getting it tiled. And since they didn't, I just, before I submit another application, is there a thickness requirement?
At the moment, I couldn't answer that question, but if you will resubmit it, you can look into it.
Okay. And then just 2 more questions. Outside, because I'm going to have some electrical work done in my home, the electrician had mentioned like the electrical box being rusted and hard to like shut off. I submitted that in the portal, and I didn't hear anything back about that. And I also submitted that the window repairs on the outside, that they would need to be resealed. That was also saw in an inspection, and I didn't hear back from either of those things.
Let me ask you a further question. The electrical question you had, what was your question on the electrical again?
I just that I submitted that the electrician that I had out had to go outside, and he looked at the panel, and it looks like it's rusted over and could be like a fire hazard. So I submitted that, but I have not heard anything back.
Now, what electrical panel outside are we speaking of?
I guess the one that's connected to my unit, the panel where it's rusted over, where it says like 1074B. I submitted a picture of it.
Okay, I haven't seen that, but the panel that operates your house is indoors. And if
Yes,
you're talking
that
about
one.
outside, what's that?
Yeah, the outside one, whatever that's called. I'm not sure the technical name.
And it's got the woody covering over it?
I believe it does, yes.
Yeah. Well, that I believe would belong to the city, Orlando Utilities Company.
Okay, so if I submit it in the portal, then you guys would get in touch with them?
I will look at it, see what it says, and then move from there.
Okay.
And
And then
if it's up to you to contact them, I will let you know that. If it's up to us, because we don't know what you're doing exactly. So we'll make sure we get to see it.
Okay. And then as far as the windows, this place had really bad termite damage on the inside of the wood frame. And they also saw that once I get those replaced, so that is our responsibility because it's on the inside, correct?
All right, I hate to make you repeat that, but go ahead and repeat it for me again.
The high windows that are in the wall, the inside of that is our responsibility to fix, but the outside is the HOA's. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe that would be correct.
Okay, because I also submitted in the portal that the outside needs to be resealed, and I didn't hear anything back, and then that's all.
All right, I will make sure that those issues get looked at and addressed. And Chuck will back that up.
Yeah, I will let everybody know I'm playing a little cleanup all of the work orders or requests that have been submitted in the portal. We actually went through and reviewed everything that was open from somewhere in the early part of last year, just before COVID shut down, through this last week, so that we can go through and make sure we've anything that has been already addressed, that we get those closed out in the portal, but anything that's open and has not been addressed or needed further action, like something that happened a few months ago and then nothing, we're going to try to get up on top of those. So we've been handling some other larger big ticket items, like some of you guys are aware, with termites and the roofing and some other issues. But I don't want any of these exterior type repairs to evolve into something bigger. So we're using this time to get on top of that and see where we're at with everything. I only ask a little more patience from everybody. I think in the past, some of our resources were allocated in a different manner that maybe didn't allow for timely response to some of these inquiries. And to be honest, the overwhelming amount of work orders and emails that were coming in were probably harder to keep on top of. So I think we've got a little bit better handle on that now, and directing our resources in better ways, and using some of our vendors and contractors a little bit better as well. So if you'll give us just a little bit more time to take care of that. And also, some of you guys, you can email or phone call me directly, and I'll get back to you as quick as I can to discuss it. And I've had people stop by, like one of my other residents today stopped by and gave me a laundry list of 6 items that she's had a concern about for as many years as Mr. Bailey, and maybe a few more. So we have to get those too. So give me a call, stop by. I do not have set hours here at the on-site office yet, because we're keeping those flexible. But I am here at least 2 days a week for at least 5 hours a day. And those hours will flex between morning and afternoon, and being on property a little bit late sometimes, like this evening. So I'm happy to make an appointment with anybody if I need to meet with you individually.
Sarah, as you have covered, these far right groups, you spoke to a man who said he's
I think other than steamers, Michael, that's everybody except I have caller 4. Not sure if caller 4 can identify themselves.
We want to exercise every possible way before that comes on.
That would be us, Carolyn and David.
Okay, thank you.
But if it comes to that,
I did that because on the computer I couldn't, my mic was unmuted, but you couldn't hear me.
Understood. Thank you.
So is it my turn?
Yes, sir.
Okay. One question we have is about the schedule for the irrigation system. We have a lot of plants around the building 6 here, our end of building 6, that look like they're a little bit desperate for water, and we're just wondering what the schedule is for the irrigation system. And I don't see that posted on the portal anywhere, so I'm just wondering if you could tell us that.
I would tell you that typically I've not seen irrigation schedules posted, but right now your irrigation system is offline because we have a major we have a break in the main line underneath of the roadway. And if we run the system at all, any zone that we run, and we have approximately 22 zones plus or minus throughout the community, any one of those zones running causes a gigantic flood by the carports at building 14, Mike? The carports in the middle of the community. There's a giant washout that happens, and although that's well water and it's not costing us anything, it's still a tremendous waste of natural resources. And we are in the midst of I don't even remember if I have it in the manager's report, but it's a project we're working on. I actually have a contractor lined up to come in. We're going to have to do excavation with a backhoe to get down to that pipe, and we don't know whether it's actually under the road and showing up in the island next to the road, or if we're going to be able to fix it from within the island. So at the moment, irrigation off, and I do not have a specific time frame, but it's probably next week before we get into breaking some ground on that. We've been troubleshooting it the last week or two and consulting irrigation system drawings that we happen to come across to see if we can more closely identify where the problems are.
Okay, well, that's the answer. How long has that situation been going on?
I don't have a specific answer, but my understanding is longer than it should have.
Okay, well, that answers that. The other thing I wanted to find out about is we have a copy of the comparison between the 2020 budget and 2021. And as I'm sure everyone is aware, there's a major increase. The lion's share of that increase, it's about a $60,000 increase in the budget. And most of that is under the subtopic of management and administration. And most of that, like almost half of the entire increase, is due to a big increase in insurance. And we're wondering if you could explain why insurance went up so much from last year to this year.
I'm going to defer a little bit to my treasurer and my president, because those deliberations and those cost increases came in prior to my personally stepping in property. But I can tell you that your insurance premiums across the board went up due to prior claims history, plus in addition to increases that were realized across the entire industry because of natural disaster events that happen, but 1000 Oaks apparently has some claims history that is affecting its insurance rates as well, as I understood it.
Oh, shit. No, it looks like it went up close to 30%, which is huge. And I understand that management fees went up. That's probably because of the fact that, Chuck, you're on property a couple of days a week now. And that, you know, I kind of get that. But I was wondering, just wondering if the treasurer or someone could explain why there's been such a major increase in the budget from year over year.
Number one, as you said, we are anticipating at least a 15% increase in our insurance due to what our property manager just said is due to it's an industry increase across the board for most of this type of insurance. The management company's increase was only gone up between $1,200 and $1,400 a month, and that's due to having a property manager on site for approximately 10 hours a week. Overall, the budget increase of 9%, as when we did the meeting for this year's budget, when we held it, was originally there was supposed to be a higher increase, but as we worked through the budget, we were able to bring it down to 9%, and that's what allows us to pay our bills in this coming year. Without the increase, we'd be working in the red.
We haven't had an increase over the past couple of years.
Yeah, it was increased last year.
But not to
2%.
the extent that it should have been.
Who is talking?
Apparently what happened, when they increased it the prior year, they kept it very low when they actually needed a larger increase to keep up with the budget. So that just kind of carried over into this increase. That's why this one went up even more than I would have liked it to.
Okay, question asked and answered. Was there something else, Carolyn, that you wanted to ask? Oh yeah, is there somewhere where we can see what the responsibilities of the landscaping company are? Because it seems like there are some things that we feel ought to be getting done that are not getting done, and we're just wondering what exactly they're supposed to be doing.
They have a contract with us. I don't know if that's out on the portal or not.
I don't think it is, because I've looked. I would like to get a copy.
Do you have anything? Yeah. Do you have anything specific that you're talking about when it comes to them?
Well, they don't seem to do much maintenance of the plantings around buildings as opposed to just blowing leaves around.
In the common area.
All right. I'm going to get into the contract. We'll look at it and see exactly what they have, and then I'll find out.
Can you submit your exact questions so we can understand what they're looking for, please? And if you have any other budget questions, please submit that. We did have a budget meeting. I don't know if you were in attendance.
No, I was not. We were in Connecticut. All right. Thank you.
Is there anyone else we missed on the open forum?
Doesn't appear so.
Okay, let me go back to my agenda here. Okay, so if we have no further input on the open forum, we will close that and move on to item number 4, which is the treasurer's report.
Okay. Chuck, everyone, can you hear me okay? Am I coming through?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so for the operating expenses for the month of December, our actual that came through was $96,000. I am rounding, and the financial statement should be on the portal. our budget allocated for March was 64,000, and we came over budget at 33,000. Reasons for that were due to our water and sewage. We've had some repairs, some leaks that have been occurring. Some maintenance expense was a little high this month. Gate repairs, we had a couple instances where the gate arm was lifted by a vendor. Somebody ran into the gate. That had to be repaired. Our pest control was higher this month due to the bats, I believe, and some termite installations. And then we did have the bad debt that was a little high. And again, the bad debt is the projected amount expected the projected amount that homeowners don't pay. For the year, we were over budget 119,000. Now, for reasons that have been previously discussed month to month, our insurance was high. We didn't expect some of the legal fees that we incurred. Our pest control was higher this year with rat control, the pat, termites. We had more plumbing repairs than expected this year due to a lot of breaks that had to be repaired. The gate, as I explained earlier. Our management fees were higher. We do now have an on-site personnel. We had some maintenance expenses as well with some repairs around the property. And water and sewage that I had spoke about earlier with leaks and repairs. Now, Chuck, you have on here review delinquency and collection reports. I'm just going to say that we do have a few that are in collections, and we have about a small percentage that are in past dues that are being worked on. And then, Chuck, you have here collections policy update needed. I didn't see anything in the package regarding that.
I felt that I looked everybody with other documents, and I had left the draft of the updated collection policy out. But I need to send that to you guys outside, during this next week or so. Mainly because the existing policy references the prior management company and the prior collections company and so on. So we need to just get I think it's a good idea every year as the board updates to update the collection policy, just refresh it. But in this particular case, because you had changes from 2019 that to my knowledge, were not reflected in 2020, we just want to get that tightened up. So I will send that to you guys shortly.
So you'll send us the updated policy? Your recommendation.
Yeah, a draft, okay. The updated and the old one for you to compare it, or the existing, pardon me, for you to compare it to. And also just the one, I think that I had some notes. I apologize, I don't have that document in front of me, but I had some notes about the dates for late fee and interest as well, that I think, I don't remember if they needed to be specified or they were perhaps off by a day or two, but there's a little bit of administrative housekeeping to be done besides changing, the reference points for contact information.
Okay, very good.
Oh, Chuck, if I may, I just have one other thing. It's more of just a statement. It ties in with the treasurer report. Coupon booklets for 2021 have been sent out. You should have received it in the month of January, and a copy of the budget and the changes with dues. If you did not receive it, if you have any questions, please send that to management so you can get either your coupon book or any answers that you may have. Thank you.
That's it, Regina?
That's it.
Okay, so we are completed the portion of item 4, Treasurer's Report. So now we will move on to item 5, Management Report.
Okay.
Now we give that to Chuck.
Yeah, I'm going to try to skim through. I had a lot. You guys got a written report late in the day today, so stand by once, because a number of the things in the report are actually in the agenda later here. Hang on one moment, please. March. First thing I want to say is that we emailed the board meeting notice day of on Thursday when the board members got their notice. So it went out on a broadcast email as we had discussed at last month's board meeting. I know that it worked because I had 1 or 2 homeowners contact me, not long, within an hour after that. So anybody that's attending tonight, if you didn't see that, you can double check your email, but you should have gotten an email back on Thursday as well with the meeting agenda. So I'm hoping that had a little bit to do with attendance tonight. And also the signs out front, and keep in mind those signs are temporary. They're not the highest quality, but they'll do much better than what we had before.
I agree with you.
We talked about the collections policy, so I'll do a draft on that. We're going to talk about parking and perhaps towing. So that's later on in the agenda. Let's see, roofing repairs. We have lift stations getting serviced supposedly tomorrow. I talked to my vendor contact today, but the lift station services, the preventive maintenance that we had discussed at last month's meeting, I've got the service agreement signed for that, but they're coming to do a pump service call that they had proposed to us back in January that needed to be done on pulling the pumps and inspecting and cleaning. So they're coming to do that hopefully tomorrow. So we'll be on track with getting the lift stations looked at on a quarterly basis starting this month. The roofing, I'll go through here real quick. We had the roofing repairs at 960A and B that go back to September, October last year. The interior repairs on those units have been completed on both of them, except for some painting in the downstairs 960A unit, which I believe is still trying to be scheduled at the convenience of the resident there. We're working on a repair at 1014B that also was something outstanding for a little bit, but I've got Metro Renovations is helping me out with that one. He's been over and inspected the interior there. There's some notes in your management report about it. The balcony repairs on building 16 at 954A and B were completed last week to correct the water intrusion problem and a drainage problem that affected 954A downstairs. We completed the main line, the sewer line replacement, the section that was busted out in front of building 5 around the 1054 and 1056 unit. That's where the sidewalk is busted up right now and has barricades around it. Pardon me, I lost that word. And that line was replaced, and we're working on concrete, which I'll talk to you about a little bit later. The stairway at 1074, was repaired this month, and that one's done. The structural repairs for 1050A, the interior that needs to be done, that permit's been issued by the city at this point, and we're just waiting for some coordination with the residents of those units so that the contractor can get in and start that work. We talked about gate repairs that, as Regina mentioned, we've had some gate damage repairs, but also this month we effected some repairs that were noted as a result of our quarterly maintenance inspections on that to keep the gate system operating at peak efficiency, except this evening where I see the incoming gate was stuck open during the rush hour. I'm not sure what happened, but I came through the gate myself around 5:30, 5:45, and it did not shut the gate. So I'm going to have to see. I'll see if that's something that Diego can correct. If it's still open when I leave this evening, then I'll put a call in. But I figured that there was something going on with the loop detector, but I'm not positive.
It's a timer, Chuck.
Let me interject. May I interject for a second?
Sure.
I believe that opens up at a set time and stays open during the rush hour traffic so that traffic doesn't back up onto Michigan as everybody's turning in and trying to get through.
That is a fabulous idea, and I'm sorry that I didn't know about that. Now
That's okay.
That is a perfect idea. So I applaud whoever thought of that. So now
somebody in the past
mental notes that's the case. That makes perfect sense. Okay. Good deal. Now, I remember seeing that a couple of other times around that time of day, and now it clicks. Okay. Fire sprinkler inspections were, as you know, were done last month when we got the repaired needs list. Came back to me with costs, and they were ridiculously minimal and reasonable, I felt, and I signed off and approved those. But now I'm waiting for the availability, the schedule availability of the contractor, and then we have to make that notice out ahead of time far enough to the affected owners who have something going on in their unit so that we can make arrangements for them, or so that they can make arrangements to be home day of. So at the moment, I don't have that date, but we're in process with that. And I would imagine, if anything, it's going to be later this month or 1st of February, because the contractor's already invoked COVID and holidays as, I don't want to say excuses, but as determining factors. So we're on there. Your screening committee during the month of January so far approved one buyer at 1028B. We welcome Limberleys, and that at 1000A, the tenant Miss Rutledge was approved over the weekend. So we have two new sets of residents, and
Hold on,
that
let me
will
make sure this is
do
still recording.
for
Can you
the
call
written
it
manager's
busted in?
report.
So guess what?
I have, of course, on the written report, the gigantic pending project list that we discussed last month. I have obviously not been able to close off one single thing just yet, but I can tell you that just about everything except for dryer vent cleaning, which isn't scheduled till next year.
Or for the board,
almost all of that has some sort of activity going on it.
But guess
So
what?
if you have any questions after you guys have a chance to digest that, please get with me directly, and I'll be able to be happy to address any of those questions or concerns.
Cooperation.
Back to you, Mr. President.
Because we're all new. No.
Okay, so now we've completed item number 5, the management report.
Before they talk about
item
this
number
stuff, we
6,
have questions
committee
in the very
report.
beginning.
And, the first
No,
one is
that's not
screening,
how it works.
which I don't
That's not,
believe
that's
we
against
have any
Robert's rules
screening
of procedure. which
scheduled at this
our-
time.
our
Is that
governing
correct?
docs say.
You did not, Mr.
No, I can't
handled
I
one
can't ask
over
it's
the
on the
weekend,
agenda.
and that was the 1000A unit. So,
Right.
That's a great question.
look at- you
But
can,
he said
you can look at that,
1050B,
buyer and
Unit
tenant,
A, we have permits
approval
for it.
in the
We have,
management report as
we're
your
just
screening
waiting on the
committee
owner
report for this
for
evening.
her availability to,
Okay, great.
fix her unit.
Item B, we have the
So what about
architecture
B?
review committee.
And why would you
We
fix
don't
A
actually have
before
a
you fix
committee
B?
by default.
Because
I've
you're
been
gonna
doing
refix
that
A,
portion myself, and we have 2 items on it
right?
that I would like to just inform the board of.
Isn't that
and
fucking crazy?
Get any input from it. And the first request is for 1000A, and the request is that they're going to want to replace the sliding glass door in their
Literally
street
refucked
enclosure
up. Look,
because
listen,
they
Adam,
can no
I'm
longer
telling you,
secure it.
this thing is going
They
to
will
be,
replace it
I'm
with
going
a
to
glass slider
bitch.
with dark brown.
I sent
and
him an
black
email today. I
trim
said,
to match
you said you're
the
going to file
existing
suit. It's been
slider
1 month since you said you're going to do that. I've sent you 2
I
emails,
myself
2 emails in the
personally
last
sent an email
3 weeks.
approving this.
None which you've responded
And
to.
do I have any
I need to know
input
what's
from
going
any
on.
members of the board?
So I sent him a kind of
If not, can we have
terse,
a
not
motion to
nasty,
approve?
but terse.
What was that address again, Mike? Sorry?
1000A.
Thank you.
But you know what her thing is she says that she doesn't have, she says this is
I had,
between me and the
I don't know if
attorney,
you-
because,
maybe you
you
have
know,
the
it's
answer.
like
I didn't
attorney
see it
to
on
attorney
paper,
kind of
but I
thing,
could have missed it.
that she has
Is there a
no
brand name
involvement on
for
this.
the
It's all about
specification?
him and I.
or a picture?
For that the
Not a
owner,
picture that-
I mean, that the
But-
owner
But
submitted?
1050B
yes.
has a permit.
Second, let me
A
see
permit's
if
in
I
line
can put my hands
for
on it.
repair. They're just waiting for what?
Hi, we're 1000A here too.
It doesn't matter, Adam. It doesn't matter.
It's been a
The
brand
fine
name
is
because our
racking up
contractor
daily.
is still specking out the one that he thinks would work best
Every
for
time
us.
her dogs bark, I fucking do the dog or the water heater.
Would you like that spec? Is that right?
I mean, as long as it's within
That'd
the
be
parameters
fabulous.
of what you've written, I think that's fine.
Oh, and our insurance bill,
So you're going to match
our
the
monthly,
existing
or
door
weekly,
that's
or
already
weekly, our yearly
Is that
insurance
correct?
bill
Yes, that's
went from
correct. We're just
$25,000
simply needing to
to
replace it.
$70,000.
And so we're wanting to obviously
And people
replace it
people
with
are wondering
new
why.
color
They
and
keep
everything
questioning why did it go up so
Right,
much.
okay.
Several people, 3 people have asked why did it go.
Any other
Looking
input
at
on that?
the current budget
From
because
any
it's
board
available
member?
online. Why did it go up so much? Why did it
Do we need to make a
triple
motion
in the
to
amount of money?
approve that?
And I wanted to. I wish I could like break in and say, I'll tell you exactly why. Because we had a surplus line of insurance, which is out-of-state insurance, which would not protect us in the event of a casualty, and now we have in-state insurance, which costs us a lot more money.
Exterior sliding glass door.
But we went up.
And
We
we have
went
a
up from
second?
25 to 75.
So Regina made the motion and Lisa Adams seconded. L in favor?
Yeah. So
Aye. And we have no negative.
I have no idea,
That
but it's
is
just
approved.
it's crazy that they have a permit or they have permits in line for her
And
unit,
the,
and they're just
second
waiting on
item
her
on
availability
there
because of course
that I
Princess
have
isn't
that was
available
in
all
there
the
was
time.
For 10:30.
Adam, code enforcement has nothing to do with this.
And
That's all
that
they're
was
doing right
for
now
some
is they're
vinyl
amassing
planking to be
fines.
installed.
It's fine.
I had looked
That's
this
all they
over,
care about
but
is the fine.
unfortunately,
They're not
what I
going.
did is I
They
made
can't
a
make them do
mistake in
anything.
Assuming was I keep mixing up.
They already did.
1036
They already told them
1038
6 months ago. You have to fix it.
So
And what have they
I
done
just
since?
want
Nothing.
to relook at it myself, and I
For
think
what
we should
purpose,
not have a
Adam?
problem approving it for 1038.
For what reason? But for what
I
reason?
will contact everybody and email and let them know.
But
Chuck,
tell
is
me
that
about the
all right?
reason
Go ahead
why I
and do
should
that.
call code enforcement.
You
They can't. They
do not
can't.
have a
Legally, they
decision to
can't.
render this evening because you're still reviewing.
It is up to
right?
the
What I
owner
was
to fix the
doing,
problem.
I was reviewing it wrong. I was reviewing what I
And
had
then
in 1038B,
but they don't
but I
care about
thought-
that. And then when the fines
but the
get to be
actual
so much
application
money,
was for
then they'll go in and file a
1038B, so I
lien
mixed
against
up the two specs.
the owner.
Yes, sir.
But that has
As
to
it
be like
looks right
hundreds
now,
of thousands of dollars.
I would approve
And as we see, they drop mine
1038B,
down to like
and I just
$25 a
wanted
day
to
or something.
Review it one more time.
They're not going to do anything,
We
Adam.
can approve that prior to the
I
next
do.
meeting by fall, right?
Because I've been dealing with this firsthand.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I'll review it within the next day.
No, the contractor did.
I'll put it to the rest of the board and we'll go from there.
Okay,
So
whatever.
I don't see any issue with it, but I don't want to rush myself, but I mixed it up, so that was completely on me.
Okay, your homeowners that submitted it are here. If there was any specific question you had, or you can get.
But let me ask, yeah, they are still, that's the Bailey at 1038B. Are you available?
Hey, yes, we're here.
Yes, I'm sorry, I mixed up the specs between yours and another unit.
Okay.
And so I had all the wrong questions for you written down. And so I guess what I'm asking at this point is you don't have any ceramic type of tiles in the living room or the bedroom. You just have carpeting?
Yep, carpeting in the living and bedrooms.
Okay, so, and you're removing tiles from certain areas of the home, right?
Yep, so they would all be flush. The tile would be removed from the kitchen and the 2 bathrooms.
And no tile in the living or bedroom?
Correct.
Great. That was one of the things that threw me off. I mixed it up with a different unit. And I'm saying, why aren't they removing the tiles? So what I'll do is, and I guess the other question I had was regarding the underlayment. And I had seen that based on the manufacturer, they were recommending a separate underlayment in residential use. But when I looked at your specs on there, they do meet and seem to exceed what we're asking for in an underlayment. Yes. And the whole issue is we just want to make sure the neighbors downstairs don't have any issues with that. So if you would give me just another day, I just want to relook at everything. I don't see a problem with this. And we don't have to wait for the next meeting since this is a committee. And I can get this done within a day or two. Does that satisfy you?
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, not a problem. Thank you for your patience. Okay, so I'm done with that on the ARC. So C is Audit and Finance Committee, and I don't think we've had a meeting with that yet. I see, Tina, are you still with us?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay. What I'd like to do is arrange between you, Jim, and our treasurer to have a meeting set up within maybe, let's say, like the next week or so, and to get things started. Would that be all right with you?
Yeah, sure, that's fine.
Okay, our treasurer is going to reach out to you.
Okay.
And you can start a conversation there. And you can all agree on what's a good time frame and where. As I understand, I think Jim would like to preferably have it somewhere where he doesn't have to go up any stairs.
Okay, well that lets out both. I guess that would
everybody involved.
Except
we may
his,
have to use another building.
Well, his unit's not upstairs.
Oh, all right. Well, you guys talk to him and see if he wants to do that.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Well, that's all I wanted to say then, and I will probably attend that meeting, not as a committee member, but just want to sit in and listen. Okay. Well, then that's all I have on the committee reports. That's item 6. So we can move on to item 7 at this time, and that's unfinished business. And we'll start, item A is the fire sprinkler system interior unit repairs and post indicator valve repairs. And I have seen the repairs for interior units, but I haven't seen a post indicator valve repair.
Right, I do not have the quote for that yet. I've asked for an updated version of that. I sent you guys the interior unit repair quotes that I had approved and sent back, and that was for basically sprinkler heads or piping that needed repair or replacement in a number of units. This post indicator valve repairs has to do with what is essentially a giant check valve underground up behind building 17 up at the front of the community. And if you don't know your way around, that would be the building closer to
Michigan.
Keystone, Michigan. Yeah, right. It'd be on your right, on your left-hand side as you're leaving the community. And there is there are two giant cast iron pipes there that have a relationship to water supply for the fire department if they were to come in and needed to supplement the water pressure from the system here that feeds not only your homes, but your fire system. So there's a giant check valve there that is non-functional or defective, and it essentially has been, as I understand it from speaking with the contractor, it's been tagged out or it's been red tagged, whatever the term you would be familiar with to say that it's dysfunctional, and it needed repair, and it was dug up and excavated in 2019, I believe, or else earlier last year, and then nothing happened with it. And the understanding is that the association told the contractor that repair was going to be a bit too expensive to undertake. However, it is my recommendation that no matter what that is, if it's related to fire safety, we definitely want to do repair. So I've asked the contractor to send me an updated quote, and we'll have to bring that to the board. And I have no idea what kind of dollar amount we're talking about, so I hate to fly blind with that, but I'm just giving you a heads up that we have some work to do on that system, and that's a system that we're never going to say no to.
Correct.
Portion of it. So I'm following up with the contractor today. I'm waiting for, I meant to say I followed up with, I'm waiting for a reply just to see where they're at with that. And as soon as I get that in hand, I will forward that to you. I sent you the picture so that you could see what we're talking about. But if you're ever out and about, you want to walk around, you can see the cast iron pipes that are the stanchion pipes up above ground, but this check valve is underneath. And what that does is help keep, it has something to do with keeping water flow from contaminating back into the city water supply as well. So if there was a break in the system underground and water pressure managed to go backwards, it would not work its way into the drinking water of your neighbors. So it serves two purposes. And I will educate everybody on that system and the operation of the system and the importance of its function as I learn more about it or have some written material to share with you. But I just needed to give everybody a heads up that that's something that has happened in the past that was set aside. And so we're going to try not to do that as much moving forward. If there's any questions about fire sprinkler system repairs, let me know.
Yeah, I have one other question for you. They mentioned something also regarding estimates for the hydraulic nameplates if needed. Is that not right?
Yeah, that is a little bit more complicated to dive into this evening, but it has to do with when the system was designed originally, and you guys have basically a pressure sensitive system that if one of the if a fire happens, your fire sprinklers have a element that's either going to melt or glass that's going to break, and that that head is going to go off, which is going to cause the rest of the sprinklers in your building to go off. Now the pressure drops, that sends an alarm bell that's outside, you have an audible alarm only, and all that is what we would call a attenuator. It's just trying to get your neighbor's attention that there's a fire going on. It is not rigged up to the fire department or any other kind of alarm system. So those original design is going to say what the pressure of that main valve on it's a gate valve on the back of your building. It's supposed to tell you what the line pressure is and how long it lasts and everything. And there's some concern that like none of the buildings have this required fire marshal type or fire. I want to say ordinance, but don't quote me on that. I know the fire marshals look for it, but it does not appear that those were there from the original installation back in 1970, whatever. So there is a requirement to have them that would involve an engineer coming out. And if we had to do those all brand new from scratch, it's going to be wickedly expensive, like $1,000 per each one. And we have 9 of them. And we can do better on that if there's any chance that we have some sort of original paperwork regarding the system. Now, we're lucky to have some blueprint drawings that I've come across, but to my knowledge, I don't know for a fact that we would have anything related to the fire sprinkler system buried in any of the archival records here, but it's certainly something to look at. And again, an issue that is my understanding was brought up in prior years' inspection reports, but probably deferred due to other priorities or other expenses. I don't know the answer to that, but I did confirm with them that it has been brought up in prior year reports.
Okay.
We'll work on that as we get more information and take any necessary steps, but I'll keep you posted.
Chuck, an item that swings into that as well. On the main water lines for each unit, not necessarily building, we have little unit number plates on the water lines. Is that also included in? I didn't see that anywhere in the language, but I wanted to ask about it because I know some of them are getting worn and it's getting hard to read because they do appear to be original.
I would think that's something we could certainly look at as a brand new to-do project. To say, hey, having noticed that, I snapshotted a couple of, well, that was a weird word. I took a couple of snapshot photos the day that we were walking around with the inspectors about just some things that caught my eye, but I think that's a great idea to say, hey, why don't we look at that, look at a building as an example, and then go spot check some of the other ones and see what it looks like we might need and whether that's something we can do ourselves with a sign shop or, is it something that is mandatory by fire code, any of that kind of thing. Pretty much like similarly with the meter bases that you guys have those little sheds behind your house with, or those little overhangs that protect your electric meters. And some of those have, labels and things in them that may be deteriorated. And carports. So yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Those tags, Virginia, you're talking about, those are identification tags for Unit A, Unit B.
Yes.
They're round little copper tags, and you can buy those tags. You can buy like a package of 100. They're not very expensive. And then you can buy also a stamp kit, and you can stamp numbers into it with no problem. And I don't believe you have a fire department code for that, since it's just identifying the supply line going to, let's say 954A and 954B, so that if I go out to turn the water up and I say, oh, is this mine or his? So we can actually do that.
I'm just writing a note, so
Yeah,
go
no
ahead.
problem.
Okay.
No, that was all I could say on that. It's just an identification tag to identify supply line to A or B. And we also, at the same time, in that project, I'll bring this up while I have the moment, is that we need to identify the valves that shut the water to the buildings off, if we can do that and locate them. So that's just all combined into one project on that one. Okay. So, do we have anything else on the fire sprinkler system, unit repairs, or any type of valve repair? No. Okay, so item 7, item B, bat removal and cleaning services.
I just want to review that Mike and I have discussed it, and it's on me to take a look at what's been done in the past up through December of 2020, because there have been multiple, well, let me rephrase that. There have been more than one service provider for some bat removal instances and cleaning, and then also they're experiencing something right now, then I want to get that list going about who needs attention and trying to determine who's going to be our provider moving forward, because we've got 2 or 3 to choose from. And then also check on the status of anything that's been done up through November or December, because if there's any, if there were exclusion measures taken where they do the netting, where the bats, I don't know if they do bait, but the bats leave in the evening to go out for food and drink, and there's netting, which they call exclusion devices, to keep them from being able to fly back in to the holes that they've made. And then at some point, the vendor comes around and fills those holes around the perimeter of the building. And in the past, I'm not sure if all of those projects met their ultimate end at the moment, if all of that kind of work has been done. But if some of you have been experiencing a problem and know that you've got some critter activity up there, definitely we want to try to address that problem before the bat nesting season comes back around. And that is, will I get there fast enough? Hang on 1 second. That,
probably, I think it's in April.
Season is, oh, I won't be able to see it. Hang on a minute.
I think it comes up around April.
Yeah, but I mean, it's many months that all of a sudden you can't do anything with trying to.
I think it goes through
April 15 to August 15. So that's a lot of, that's 4 or 5, that's 4 months. So we've got until the 1st of April to try to do any of our remediation effort right now without having to worry about that. So.
Yeah, I'm a little alarmed from some of the items I heard on bats tonight, so we need to make sure we jump because once they're in there, once we get past April 15th, you basically will pay the price because they're not going to let it happen to get the bats out.
Right. So Mike and I are discussing that during my visits here on the property and obviously outside of that. So that is on the top of the action item list at the moment. That's it. That's all I have for that myself.
All right, very good. If anybody has anything else on that, please state it now. Otherwise, we can move on to item D. C, I'm sorry. that would be gutter repair, replacement, and cleaning and maintenance services. So I know right now we're in the process of doing some gutter repairs, such as pitching and some gutter cleaning.
Yes,
and
sir.
We're going to be going into maintenance services of at least, I think right now we're discussing at least twice a year. And Chuck, if you want to add anything to that, please do.
Yeah, we have a project right now that's addressing approximately 28 units throughout the community.
Hey, don't text me because it shows up on the recording.
All throughout the community. I apologize to anyone who was disturbed on Saturday morning because the contractor called midweek and said that they had availability on Saturday and they wanted to work Saturday and then again this coming Saturday, and it did not cross my mind to send a notice out on the email to let people know that they would see workers out here, but I will try to remember to do that. Sent myself a note for Thursday to send a notice out to everybody that they expect to be back. The company is Gutter King, and they are doing cleaning and repitching of and repair on a number of backside. All of these are on the backs of the buildings that they're working on. So they'll be out again this following Saturday. However, we've been discussing the need that for my board members that the gutter system, front, back, and wherever else you have any, is your stormwater management system or part of it. And that system itself it seems to have been maintained on a when there was a problem as needed basis rather than what we're trying to move toward, which would be a preventive maintenance. So that's what Mike's talking about is we put the word into the vendor to say, give us a quote for recurring cleaning, whether that's once a year, twice a year, tell me what your recommendation is. And I had this discussion with the vendor today, and I did act as though I were a board member or a homeowner to say, now when I tell you to tell me how often I should have my gutters cleaned, you don't come back and tell me every month because you're the gutter guy. But I need you to be realistic with me and tell me, based on our experience here, based on our current conditions, when should we be cleaning the gutters? And if any of you have ever looked up to the second, third story of your buildings and seen what I told a couple of my board members, it appears that we're growing an herb garden out of the gutter, you know that gutter's not doing what it's supposed to do. And if you look around the grounds and you see the amount of acorns we have on the ground, you can imagine how many acorns are stuck in those gutters. And so there's no way that they're moving the kind of water they're supposed to move. And the majority of your downspouts tend to go toward another pipe or some other system that runs underground. So we're moving an awful lot of water when it's working properly. So that's our big push right now, is to try to find a point where we get an initial cleaning done and we say, okay, all the gutters have been cleaned. We're not in the rainy season. Now let's decide how frequently we need to do that particular project. And while you're out cleaning, you adjust the downspout, you fix a crimped end pipe, or you tilt what they're calling repitch to make something flow a little faster or a little better in the right direction. So it'll be inspect and maintain and clean. So open to any suggestion or comment with regard to that particular project.
Yeah. How could you?
Okay. No, we'll move ahead with and get the information out to everybody as we obtain it. Okay.
Very good. All right, since we have no more comments on that one, we'll move on to item D, and that is Carport Island landscaping refurbishment for renovation needs. And I think we're talking specifically if you're driving in to the association, the second carport on your left, it was rebuilt, but they never did any landscaping on the backside. So as you drive down, you see a lot of gray dirt and exposed pipes, and that's where we're talking about doing some landscaping and refurbishment. And any possible other
benefits directly across at the neighboring carport as well. And because part of that is going to be affected by the irrigation, the mainline irrigation repair that we're going to need to do all the excavation with as well. So,
any questions for
I've already talked to the landscaper about the shrubbery that exists there. We've agreed that the majority of that is reaching its limited lifespan, and a lot of the growth is just strictly on the top of the shrubbery for a number of reasons: age and condition and sunlight that gets there. And we're going to look to remove the existing shrubbery and then look at what the ground situation is like and whether the soil needs to be amended. Part of the problem that you have on what side would that be? Building. The one that got rebuilt, part of the problem with that bed area is that there was an oak tree in there somewhere that got taken out, but all those roots and everything are still there. And Metro Renovation, who did the reconstruction there, was telling me that there's a lot of areas where they basically had to die cut some of the paneled sides, the paneling that is the back wall of the carports, the exterior as you're driving out of the community, the part that you see. A lot of that stuff is jigsaw cut around these oak roots and things that didn't get dug up. So, you know, I mean, again, that sounds like something that it was like, well, let's not, I don't know because I wasn't here, but, you know, let's not spend the money it would take to do it what might be considered the right way, but let's work around and do the best that we can. I don't know that. I wasn't here. I'm just saying it kind of looks that way. And if you go out there and walk around it, you'll see what I'm talking. So we have to decide, like, what do we want to do with that area? One of the things we're looking at is clearly the ground cover jasmine that's out there does perfectly well. That's the stuff that gets about 3 or 4 inches high, something like that. And that's all nice and deep green and seems to take care of itself well with, you know, the existing irrigation and so on. So that would not be a bad substitution of plant material. The only thing is that it'll take hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them to fill it in. But that's a project that we could look at. Hey, we put a couple hundred in and we let them fill in, and then next year we put some more in, and, you know, maybe that's a phased project like the Garden Rebel on the AM radio uses. Yes. Phased landscaping. So that's something we're talking about. But first things first, we're going to take out what's there and then start looking at what we can do for the existing grounds and soil there. So nothing substantial on that at the moment. And also, if we're able to use the backhoe that we're going to bring in for the irrigation excavation to do some of the roots and you know, the shrubbery roots and maybe some of the tree roots and so on, you know, if we can get a head start with some of that with the backhoe while it's here, why not do that and get a, you know, make the most use of the rental of that backhoe. So I'll keep you guys apprised as we get a little closer to doing more work on that.
Very good. Any comments or questions? Okay, we can move on to item E, which would be engineering services for roadway repairs and resurfacing specs and proposals.
That's a pretty deep one that would take a meeting in and of itself. So what I would like to do is say, okay, all of my board members have a copy of the engineer's quote for his services to create the, let me backtrack that a little bit. Mike and I met with this gentleman, Monty Plank, from the Central Florida Engineering company. It's a recommendation from me. It's an engineer I've worked with off and on for the last 20 years. And I would tell you, he knows his stuff. We need to repave the road. I can tell you that some of you have been paying for paying assessments to repay a loan with that was made to the association with a portion of that loan intended to repave the road. And that's pretty much the biggest project that has not yet been done. And so we have started seriously looking at that project, but we are not in a position to run off and call 3 or 4 paving companies and ask them for a quote. Now, I'm going to try not to retread information that I've given to you before, but in certain circumstances, like roofing a building, paving a road, painting every building in here, we're going to look to a third party to develop specifications that will then be used to go out and solicit competitive bids from qualified providers. So that means everybody's bidding what everybody likes to call apples to apples. There's no question that this guy's going to quote something to put down 2 inches of asphalt, and this guy's going to say 1.5 inches, and this guy's going to say you mill it and chop it up and chew it up to get it out, and the other guy says, no, we're just going to lay the new over the old. We're not doing that. This is incredibly much more complicated, especially with our drainage system, the way that the road is engineered and paved with to channel water where it needs to go, and your storm drain system, your speed bumps, and everything else that's here. So Mike and I met with Mr. Plank, who came out and did a field survey, visual survey of the entire property. I provided him with a tattered copy of one of the original paving and drainage plan drawings that we had from 1973 or so, just as some sort of a benchmark. And we can tell that there's been some paving, some overlay of asphalt done in here in the past. Whether it was done well or not is another story, but I don't know how long ago. Keep in mind, we're pushing 45 years old, plus or minus. So it would have had to have been done at least once. And we can see layers of that as an example in certain spots where there are potholes here throughout the community, or down by some of these stormwater drainage catch basins. But other than that, there's also some permitting needs that are apparently going to need, that are going to impact costs on a paving project. And there are outside geotechnical, I think I highlighted them in yellow, of some other services that would be done outside of Mr. Plank's contract. But his quote for something in the neighborhood, I'm going to try to pull it up real quick. I apologize while I'm here. His quote was somewhere $15,000, which is likely less than 10% of what the actual paving project would has been estimated to cost. So we don't have hard bids on that. But if you look at your at the reserve study that was done from a couple of years back, that we're looking at those numbers as benchmarks to try to have some idea of what we can expect, but we also have to look at what's available from that cost perspective of what's available with loan proceeds, what's available in the reserves, and so on, about how to fund that project. But we've taken our first step, much as I said I wasn't going to talk about it that much. It's very complicated, and I don't expect any of you to understand what's in there. However, Mr. Plank has offered, as he always does, that we could have a special meeting just to discuss that and his services and what the paving project might look like. If that was something you were interested in doing, I can touch base with him about his availability, and he's already indicated that in an email to us, but that we could set up something that would be specifically about sitting down and talking this, where he would come in and explain, here's who I am, here's what I do, here's how that impacts your paving project, and that he sees it all the way through from writing the specification for the job, to sending it out to bid to qualified individuals, to bringing those bids to you with potentially with a recommendation, but ultimately it's always your choice about which contractor you want to pick. And then he would be the project manager for that paving project up through the end of it. So he's making sure that they follow the specification for the job. And, there may be some outside testing, like core testing or sample testing of asphalt and things that gets done during that. But he's specified in his fee schedule what's included in there and what's excluded. But I did $1 million paving project with Mr. Plank and his company at a large Eastern Orlando Homeowners Association a few years back. And I will tell you that of everything that could have possibly gone wrong, we had a minimal number of, issues raised by homeowners who were impacted that were more about things that happened with the concrete around drainage structures, like the storm drain in front of my house, or somebody spilled some tar on my driveway or something like that. But the project itself was practically flawless, and that's insanely unusual. So, if I were going to turn a project over to someone, that's somebody I would say I have utmost confidence in. And that's why I'm happy to bring him to the table here for your consideration. So management is going to recommend that we do a bit of a deep dive on Mr. Plank's proposal, and that the board consider setting some time aside to meet specifically to talk about a paving project, and start gearing up for this.
I would agree with you, Chuck. It's Regina. I have thoroughly looked through the proposal. I have some red lines. I'm familiar with PM services. The question I have right now is, did you reach out to any other companies for PM services for this particular type of project?
Did not at this point. And it made that clear, because I wasn't going out to do 3 bids for engineering services in this particular case. I just said, I want to bring somebody in on a consult to say, Monty, we're thinking about doing paving, and I'm going to need an engineer. Would you come out and talk to us and meet us and take a look around and give me an idea about what it's going to cost me for an engineer, so that I can bring it to the board and say, you absolutely need to do this project with this layer of protection, and here's roundabout what you're looking at for cost. So if you were going to go somewhere else, you've got at least a baseline to say, well, it's either going to be higher, lower, or right in the middle, just like Goldilocks. You know, hotter, colder,
Right.
or the right temperature.
No, I'm totally in agreement. And, you know, permitting is pretty much, I mean, it is an estimate, but it's pretty much what it is. I was just wondering to see what other PM fees would look like in relation to this, for this specific type of project. That's why I asked.
And I'm going to tell you, in all honesty, I would not have a clarified, detailed request for proposal that without stealing somebody else's, you know, either Mr. Plank or some other engineer's prior work, you know, and blacking out all the good stuff and saying, here's the specification for engineering services that I'm calling out, because that, you know, the same thing I'm looking for Mr. Plank to do for paving, I would not be able to do for the engineering consultation services. And that, you know, I don't have that degree of detail and familiarity to make sure that I caught everything that an engineer needs to bring to the table. So I'm not opposed to, clearly not opposed ever to saying, if you want to get other quotes, we can, but now we're going to kind of run into the same thing with an engineer about how do we know that we've got everything that we need in that engineer's services.
Correct.
If it makes sense.
So should we, I don't mean to speak for everyone, just speaking for myself, I think we should, or I would like to have a meeting with this gentleman to go over the red lines from the proposal that we received. I have a bunch of questions in regards to the language and what he's proposing. Does anyone else have anything to add?
I think that's fine. We recommended that meeting with them. Myself, Lisa just agreed, and Regina agrees. Brittany, are you with us?
I am, yes. I'm sorry, I couldn't unmute fast enough. I agree, yes. I think a meeting with him would be best.
Let's go ahead and move forward with a meeting with Mr. Plank, Chuck.
Okay, I will work on that this week and find out what availability is, and clearly, you know, Zoom go-to meeting. We'll figure it out for maybe something off cycle between now and the next board meeting. You know, like 2 weeks out or something, if we could do that, just so that we can have time to come up with any questions or concerns, and then also have time to digest whatever you get from that meeting prior to your next board meeting.
Okay.
Okay, and Chuck, I have some hard dates that I cannot attend, so I can send that to you, but
Okay.
we're
Why don't we do that? You guys, if you have any conflicts, like, and let's just assume he's perfectly fine with an evening. So let's just assume it's going to be an evening meeting, and let me know if you've got any, like she said, any hard dates. Then I'll work backwards from that and just say, I can do anything but this. What do you have?
Perfect, thank you.
Again, that's open, you know, that's open to membership and everything as well. So just like a board meeting.
Very good. Okay, any further comments, questions on item E, the engineering services?
And thank you for letting me go on about that.
No problem. The more information, the better. We're spending a lot of money to do
that. That is a big ticket item, though. So, you know, that's something we are not rushing headlong into, and we're going to take our time and do it right, but it definitely needs to be done. So.
Agreed.
I think we all agree on that part. Okay, let's move on to item number 8, new business. And the first one up is A, parking restrictions and parking permit decal consideration.
I want to put that, was asked to put that on the agenda as a new business item, and I would like to definitely see it as unfinished business next month. Just want to point out, like I had in the manager's report this month and last month, there's a couple of like examples that I pasted up of decals that we could do. That's not the be all end all, but just something to show you, give you an idea. And then board members may recall that last week or the week before, I sent you a picture, like I guess it was before that, but like not long after the board meeting, I came in December, I came across 2 boxes of crap, I got one right here. 2 boxes of parking hang tags that, you know, clearly never got used at some point. At least if they did, they didn't use many of them because they made where's my camera? They made a whole bunch of these with stamped numbers. So there'd be like 3 or 4 of these 070. So I'm assuming you got assigned a specific number, and then you got X number of tags. And the only problem is we mentioned last month, and one of your homeowners said the same thing, is that hang tags can be moved from car to car. So in my personal opinion, they do not achieve the desired effect. But that's my personal opinion, and you know what that's worth. So, but hey, we got a whole bunch of them. And we need clearly at the moment, parking restrictions come into play because, like the nice lady said, Ms. Lacey, I think, about, if I got the person wrong, I apologize, but about car with no tags on it. I can for a fact that in carport number 4, I believe, I shouldn't say the number because I might be off, but in the first carport in building 1, there is a dusty SUV backed into the parking space that has no tags on it, and I can tell you it's clearly been there for probably this last calendar year. But your carports are not intended to be storage units for vehicles. And if your existing parking restrictions, as your president has said, do require that all cars be in an operational condition, there's at least one car that shouldn't be here. And there's probably another one that's a red Mustang with a bad tag that was parked out here in front of the tennis court, but ended up somewhere else. I believe it's at the carport right now. But that one, I think, still I won't swear, but the last time I looked, still had an expired tag. And right now, we have not yet renewed the towing services agreement, which we discussed at last month's board meeting, and I got the updates of authorized representatives of the association, which would be the president, the vice president, and myself, who can authorize towing. But I have the agreement here that I just need to get signatures on, and then we have to pay our $100 City of Orlando required permit fee or licensing fee, whatever it's called, for towing to get that squared away. But those are vehicles that could be tagged, you know, and or not, if it's not required to tag them ahead of time, that could be removed. But if we have an issue like I believe Ms. Peters said that there's a unit that maybe has 4 cars here, is it a unit that needs 4 cars? You guys don't have, you clearly, as we've discussed in the past, you do not have the number of parking spaces that you would need if this community was full up. If every unit was full to the brim of licensed drivers, you would be hard pressed to put enough vehicles inside this community. And then the other problem that you have is because you don't have assigned parking, you do have the issue, apparently, as I'm told, with people who live in one building are deciding to overflow park their cars in front of another building, which might keep you from being able to park in front of your unit when you come home from the grocery store, or you're having, you know, family over or other visitors. your parking lot I'm in your office space at the moment, and your parking lot out here in front of the office and the tennis court is 2/3 full. And nobody's playing tennis, and nobody's at the swimming pool. So, where are all those cars coming from? That's not what this lot is intended to be. So this is something that would either be, does the board and management, do we work on this outside the board meeting? Is it something that, I never understand the term ad hoc. Is it an ad hoc committee with a specific function together, gets assigned to try to come up with some recommendations to present to the board? How would the board, I'm bringing the problem to the attention of the board, which is that existing rules related to parking need to be reinforced and reminded to everyone, and then enforced. Reinforced meaning we need to re-educate everybody by publicizing that these specific restrictions already exist, and then deciding whether we need to start addressing the identification of authorized vehicles within the community by issuing parking permits, and also tying in parking restrictions and parking permits should also tie into access control devices like remote controls and gate cards, because your screening committee just interviewed someone in the 1000A unit who it turns out has lived here in the past, and that her immediate family members have lived here in the past as well, like going back 2 generations. And she said to me in email today, I think my name is still in the directory up front. And I don't know what year she lived here last, but that would concern me. It concerns me, and at the same time, I'm not surprised. Something that I'm working on with my office manager at Premier to pull the database of the gate, the tele-entry system directory, and compare it to who actually lives here and try to purge out anybody who no longer lives in 1000 Oaks. Now, who knows how many dozens or hundreds of people that might be at this point. So we got 2 or 3 branches of this particular issue that come up once we start discussing it. So I'm open to suggestion, but also, direction, like tell me what you would prefer to do or not do with this moving forward from today. So is this going to be an issue that you want me to work on? Is it something we want to farm out to a committee? What's your pleasure? Anyone?
If I may ask a question.
I apparently lost all of my board members on audio at the moment. Yes, sir.
I am here. I'm not sure if the rest of the crew is. I just wasn't sure if anyone was speaking up. The way that I look at doing anything within the community is one of the best things is to kind of put out those polls and those options and see who would be, feeling what way towards certain situations. Because, we're never going to make everyone happy at the end of the day. And so my mind would be kind of put out a poll, put out some options, and get some feedback from the community.
So who would develop those, when you say options, that's where, who do you want to develop options?
I guess we can discuss that further too. I think there are only so many options. Do assigned spots, or like you said, the decals that we have going on. But that, we could research some option. I'm not really sure, Chuck, that's a great question for us to get started on and, redirect the conversations for it.
Okay.
If I may, I think, Brittany, you have great ideas there. I would like to, we're going to have to discuss the parking restrictions, rules, regulations, enforcement in a meeting, I think, by itself. So, and I think we should do that as a board to start with, and then we can get our ideas together and start moving forward.
I think you can address, and I don't want to step on Mr. Bailey, but so we can come back for just a second. But I think that the first and foremost issue is getting a handle on what cars are supposed to be here, and that's not that difficult. It's sending a registration form or whatever you want to call it, a vehicle information form to every unit and saying that effective such and so date, we're going to implement vehicle decals that are assigned, once we figure out what that decal is, but, a decal that's assigned to you specifically, and we need your vehicle make, model, and tag number, so on, and then we just make sure that whoever we're getting those from are, that's one way to find out also if there's any chance that we have unknown, unauthorized tenants in here. There is a way for somebody to rent out their unit and those people get in the gate and we have no idea that they're living here.
If I can say something, I am one of those people that would love to have the hanging tag. And even if you can move it from one car to the other, if you only get one tag per car, it does matter. If you move it to another car, the other car doesn't have a tag. So it's not that suddenly you're multiplying the cars that you are parking. You still have only one legal tag per car, not a decal, a tag.
But then how many?
What happens if you suddenly have an accident, like I had once a hit and run, and I didn't have a car, so I had a rental car. If I have a decal, the decal is in the shop. The hanging tag, I could have removed the hanging tag and put it on my rental car. It's still one car, one hanging.
Okay.
That's
so
not.
Let me interject for a second. I want to get, don't mean to discredit anybody's ideas in any way, but we have some time constrictions on our meeting. Our open forum was earlier in the meeting. Right now, we're just trying to discuss a way to get progress with our parking problems. We'll get input from everybody that was willing to give it, but not specifically all right now at this meeting. I'd like to continue this discussion with the board members, and we will meet, is my suggestion, as a board and start the discussion and then get it out to the people of the community.
Okay.
And going with the board, do you have is there any further comments? Brittany, I'm not sure if I got your complete suggestion.
No, I agree with you, Mike. Let's start as a board and go from there and then present those options to the community. That was my whole thing, is how can the community say at some point. So I agree with start with us and then work it out.
Okay, and to those of you still listening, I hope I didn't cut anybody off on any suggestions, but like I say, we have certain time restraints on a meeting, and we still have other items to go through. So, Chuck, anything else you have on the parking?
No, sir.
And any other board members have anything to input there? Okay, so let's move on to item B, which is drywood termites and fumigation recommendations. Do we have? Go ahead.
Well, I had a service call completed by Massey earlier this month, and I'm sorry I don't have the unit number right in front of me, but the notes the technician had was that fumigation was recommended again as the only, the viable solution to the recurring problem in that building or in that unit. And when, in mid-November, when Brian Sklover and Mike and I met with the Massey branch manager and our customer service, or excuse me, our account manager, one of the things that came up in that conversation was that we have some written fumigation recommendations from both Massey and from Truly Nolan, who came in and ended up doing building Lucky number 7, right? Number 7 was completed, but number 3 and number 7 and one of the other buildings, I want to say was number 6, were pointed out by both companies as being in need of fumigation. And again, I was not here. This is before my time, but my understanding is that when the vendors brought forth the subject of fumigating, which is tenting the buildings and would require people to vacate for, I think it's 24 or 48 hours when it's done, they were basically told, well, I shouldn't say they were told because I wasn't there. It was decided that that's too much money. We're not going to do it. Meanwhile, everybody says that termites are eating up the wood that compromises your 1,000 Oaks condominium units. So now we have another service ticket saying fumigation is recommended, and we've got fumigation floating around out there. And you talked Truly Nolan into coming in and treating Building 7 with a chemical, basically a retreatment bond, even though they came in the door saying you need to fumigate that building. So, I know that some people can make a case to go, well, why don't we just have them? We paid them for the chemical treatment, and they'll come back and treat, every time we call them, and that's true. But probably at some point there's a limit to how many times they want to do that. And then also, it's not solving the problem. It's killing the one they see today, but the rest of them that are living elsewhere in the building aren't getting killed with the spot treatment that they're putting on. And again, I know some of you board members and probably some homeowners were in attendance at a meeting that you guys had earlier in 2020 when I guess Massey made some sort of a presentation about it. Mike, you can correct me, but I thought I heard something about that from previous month. They've said this is the work that needs to be done. So again, I just think that we need to have it on the radar and take some sort of definitive action in one direction or the other.
With the fumigation, is that correct?
Yeah.
Well, yes, either. The board needs to be aware that, again, that, any of the board members that weren't around for that when it came up previously, but that you've got that recommendation being made by both of your providers, and you have to have some sort of level of trust with your provider. And now, Mike, you've got a little bit of information to share from one of our homeowners who saw that on the agenda and has some suggestion about being able to assist in that process.
Yeah, I thought he was going to be on the meeting, but apparently he didn't make it to the meeting. But the gentleman is the owner of 952 at Building 16, and he owns a pest control company. Now, he's not looking to service us in any way, but he can put us in contact with a fumigation service that, say we were to go to Massey and say, yes, go ahead and fumigate our building, Massey's going to charge us X amount of dollars, and they're the middleman. There's going to be another company that's going to come out and do the work for them. So we're actually paying two companies. This gentleman will give us the name of the company that does the fumigation, and there, which way we would avoid the middleman and pay less. Because Massey is expensive in their fumigation services, as is almost everybody else. So we have a way to contact this gentleman. We'll get the information he wants to give us and see how much money we then will pay for a fumigation where it's needed. In the past, with Massey, though, I have to say this. Many of our residents got to the point where they didn't trust Massey. And that was part of the meeting we had with two Massey representatives, is that the people here lost a lot of trust in them. But since they have accommodated us and would assure us that their services would definitely be improved.
I would like to clarify just that we have the gentleman's last name is Reinhardt. So if any of you are long-term Orlando residents, he's one of the principals at Dr. Jack's pest control company. And, you know, they've been around like 35, 40 years, something like that. And his father started the company. And what he said, correct me if I'm wrong, I can go look at my email. But he said, hey, I don't want to sell you anything. I can arrange, like basically broker the deal with the provider that does the actual tenting service on behalf of most of the major pest control companies in town. And that he would do what he could to help. He lives here, he owns a unit, so he's looking to help his association, save money and get some guidance at the same time. And I thought that was fantastic. So, I definitely would want us to consider that consultation and see what it takes. So I think if we opened up that dialogue at this point with at least Massey to start with the 2 or 3 buildings that they had originally said, Mike, you were in that conversation, but the documented buildings that they put forth earlier in 2020, that we talked to them about, okay, hey, look, if we were going to do this, what are we talking about? Like, let's get some updated cost estimates, and then also what the time constraint is, because you have to displace residents for a short period of time, because otherwise you're going to kill human beings along with the termites, and we don't want to do that.
So you're looking for the cost that Massey was
continuing any kind of ongoing issues with the subterranean termites. So, I think that, again, it's taking some positive action on something that's been a long, drawn-out issue within the community.
Yeah, so apparently we're going to need to do some fumigation. And this Mr. Reinhardt, he actually doesn't live here, but he owns a unit next door to me, actually. He said he'd be happy to put us, and I'm reading it from his email, in contact with the company that'll be doing the work for Massey. And he said he would be happy to speak to the president or anyone else on the board that is involved with this issue. So what I want to do is we'd like to reach out to him, let him give us the information he can so that we can either contact or he can contact the company and give us our price if we have to do fumigation, and the warranty, he says, will still be the same no matter what. So I think it's a good idea to reach out to Mr. Reinhardt. We know we already have at least 1 or 2 buildings that we have to fumigate. Am I correct in that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And I can pull that. I've got that in my termite file here somewhere, so I can send that list back to you guys. I know I've got correspondence copied from Massey about that. So
All right, yeah, let's get from Massey to find out what buildings that they say that we.
Oh, they did, I've got it, Mike. They did building 3, building 6, and building 7. And I want to tell you that they were in the 8,000. I've got them up here. Give me 1 second.
Yeah.
That's
one
what
I remember, the 8,000.
was $9,100. I think they're all about that same price range.
Yeah, that was about it, between $8,000 and $9,000 at least. Okay, so.
Building 6, 91.
Okay. All right, so we can, we'll get this
88.20, so they're all $9,000 a piece on average.
Okay. Well, I suggest we reach out to Mr. Reinhardt and see what we can work there at the least.
Okay.
All right. Do we have any more further information or discussion on drywood termites and fumigation recommendations? Okay. Then we can move on to item C, which is sidewalk repair needs. And there was a proposal sent to us by Metro Renovations. Go ahead, Chuck. You want to take that from there?
Started with the sidewalk in front of Building 5 that we need to replace the panel. And while we were looking at that, because I called Steve because he's doing other work in here, and we started looking at some of the sidewalks next to that panel, and we've got a lot of lifted sidewalks with trip hazards where they're settling, or tree roots, or something else that's causing one sidewalk panel to be higher or lower than the one next to it. So everybody knows what I'm talking about when I say lifted sidewalk panels?
Yeah.
Or broken, damaged, something like that. And there's a lot of evidence of, prior grinding repairs. The trip hazards usually are considered to be needing attention and a safety issue if they exceed, I believe it's 1/4 of an inch. But I'm not sure if that's the newest, latest height restriction. But anything much more over 1/2 inch is difficult to grind down and level out because of the amount of space that it takes to do that leveling. So sometimes the amount of work that it takes to grind down that concrete takes more effort and labor than it does to remove and replace that panel. So we walked the entire property and marked out however many 30, 40 places that we have on your list there. The majority of it grinding, but there are quite a handful of panels that need to be replaced as well. We priced it out accordingly, and concrete, in my experience, it's everybody thinks if you can go get a bag of concrete at the Home Depot, that's one thing, but when you need to start trucking in concrete, it gets expensive, and you need to pour it fairly quickly. So a lot of this work would be done with, a lot of this is going to be grinding, and it's going to take a lot of whatever I want to say diamond cutting wheels, but we're going to go through a lot of cutting wheels. But the concrete, when you go to pour it, basically you have to do all the prep work first, and then bring the truck in and pour it and go. You can't do one, bring the truck in, do another one, bring the truck in, because mobilization fees are insane. And concrete is one of the things that has a kind of a reverse pricing scale, that it gets a little bit cheaper as you go and get more, but at some point it maxes out. It really doesn't get any more expensive or any more cheaper, depending on what you're doing. So my biggest concern as management is safety with regard to the sidewalks. So there are an awful lot of trip hazards here that could use attention. We marked visibly the areas that we had concern about, and that's the areas that he went back and measured out and priced for us. So management's recommendation is that we definitely address and attack those those areas needing work.
Correct. Let me ask you a quick question. You stated that it's when they do the grinding, that the grinding is going to take more effort than actually taking it out and repairing it. Is that correct?
In some cases where you have an area, the reason you can't grind down something that's an inch high is the panel has to be a certain depth in order to have some structural stability, but also the angle that you need to reach a level point from the one that's low and the one that's high. If I got to grind it down level, I've got to go farther out on that panel to keep that thing level and not have a ramp. My piece of sidewalk sits like this, but in order, I can't grind it down and then have you walk up a hill on that next panel. You have to you got to grind it down until you get level. But in order to go back, you take a chance of reducing that thickness of that panel. That's part of it.
Right.
So the labor that it takes to grind that entire panel and go back a foot or a foot and a half can sometimes be more expensive than it would be to just bust out the panel like you want.
Got it. So sometimes it's better to replace.
How thick and all of that. But I'm looking at somebody, again, this is a contractor that I just said, he's here. He's already done tens of thousands of dollars of work for you, and there's more work here. So I'm assuming in my personal discussion with him that he's going to give us a competitive price, and we're happy with the quality of the man in the past. So
absolutely.
To make everybody comfortable, I'm not skirting around, let's get 3 bids. I'm skirting around, we don't need to go get 3 bids for every single thing, especially when we're doing work with, vendors we're already doing work with. So, but again, like anything, if somebody says, let's go get bids, the only way I'm going to do that now is to take that gentleman's handiwork and mark out his name and submit it to, other contractors, which I don't think is kosher.
Right. Hold on a second, Chuck. Am I muted?
And I'm also, like, in this particular case, I think if we not really looking to cherry pick certain areas out of there, because our costs are going to, that thing is bid as a group. That we're getting the I want to say economy of scale, but we're getting the gang price there rather than come out and grind a couple of sidewalks today and we'll call you back next month to do a few more. So we can attack this any way that you want to do it, but management's recommendation is going to be, let's pull the trigger on getting this work done. It's going to be noisy, it's going to be dusty and dirty for a little while, but the least amount of time that we can, if we can minimize that amount of time and that amount of inconvenience to everybody, because some of these sidewalk lifts are right outside your front door.
Yeah, I've seen,
but some of your neighbors have green spray paint out in front of their front door right now.
Yep, I've seen it. I've looked at them, and some are in deep need of repair for safety's sake. Absolute trip hazards and should be taken care of.
Chuck, I do have a question, and I know that we're desperately going over time here, but in regards to this quotation, it was my understanding that the services that were going to be provided for the asphalt will also include the sidewalk. Are we doing the sidewalk repairs because of immediate need? And then if additional items are needed from the survey, we'll do it at that time?
Actually, anything related to paving was more about curbing. And if you guys drive through the neighborhood, you'll see a lot of places where you have your legacy oak trees have busted up the curbing. And there are big chunks of curb that we were talking about needing to do some realignment of that curb. Like if we need to bring it out 6 inches, or we get serious about bringing saws in here and cutting up oak tree, base roots in order to put the curb back where it belongs. The problem is that at some point, years from now, our next generation is going to be dealing with the same thing, with the roots growing and busting up the curbs. So what we can do with roadway is try to repair that on a lineal, I don't want to say a lineal foot basis, but we were looking at areas that we could reconfigure, at some point around those tree root areas. So not related to sidewalks that I recall. And especially most all your sidewalks sit, X number of feet off of the curb line anyway.
Okay.
But Mike, do you guys have any discussion questions, anything about the sidewalk quote or any action on that tonight?
Let me ask if the board, you guys need a little more time on this or not, to think about what you want to do yet? I think everybody's still thinking, think there's smoke going on. Well, here I'll make a suggestion. I think everybody should relook at the quote, think about everything that was just said, and then we can come to a decision. And we can, hold on.
Chuck, would we also be able to speak with this? Hold on, I get echo.
Hold on, please.
Would we be able to schedule a time, like we're going to be doing with the engineering, with this vendor, maybe the same day, back to back?
We could.
Regina's asking at the time we meet with,
like, is it a single one that we can just do, like we can email, or how do you want to? Yeah, the only reason I ask, I don't hear anybody asking anything. So if you have a specific question, we could certainly run it through email and cover, reply back to everybody and make sure that gets passed along if that's easier.
I think that's fine.
Okay.
Brittany, what about you? I didn't hear. Do you have any questions?
I'm just agreeing with you all right now, just listening, taking it all in and processing it.
Okay, so let's take it in, process it, and then we can really come to a decision. Is that correct?
Okay. That's it.
All right. Very good on that. And you're familiar with Steve from Metro. He's been here for a long time doing work for us. He's the guy that does all the stairs.
I think I've seen him.
Yeah, he does all the stairs.
Okay.
Well, he rebuilt your carports too.
Yes, and he rebuilt our carports, absolutely. Okay, so if we're finished with item C, we can move on to number 9, which would be set the next meeting time and date, which would be the third Monday in February, so it'd be Monday, February 15th at 7 p.m. Any comments there?
I do just want to put out there, Brian brought it to my attention that this will be our last meeting before elections. So we do need to keep in mind that election process and what it's going to be looking like so that we have a plan to share with the community at the next meeting.
That's very good. Elections are coming up in March. Very good. We got to do prepare for that. Thank you. Any other comments? Questions? Okay, so.
Mr. President.
Moving on from number 9.
Mr. President.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
This is Keith Apwalkie, and I know this is not part of the open forum. However, I want to thank Chuck for being a absolutely professional cam. I've been here for 7 years, and Chuck has been the most professional, unopinionated person that we've had. And I also want to, my main purpose of this is to question the Audit and Finance Committee, which we were talking about having somebody have at their house. That has to be held at the clubhouse or virtually, because.
Open meeting.
I'm sorry, Mike?
It'll be an open meeting.
Yeah, all
So
the
you will be
committees
able
are
to, you will be able to join that meeting
virtually, but they'll be.
Okay, as long as it's not a hidden meeting, we should all get notification of it as we always do. And I trust you, and I just wanted to make sure that when we were talking about people climbing upstairs and them not being able to climb upstairs, that it was going to be something different. That I just wanted to be sure that it was going to be a legitimate meeting according to the 718 statute.
Absolutely, we'll fall in line with the Florida statutes, with our own rules and regulations, and no meeting that I hold that's supposed to be out to open to the public will be held in secret in any way.
Excellent,
So
I appreciate
the
it.
promise you made towards Chuck and your trust in us.
Absolutely, I do very much, and I thank you again.
You're welcome. You're quite welcome. I'll allow comments like that anytime. All right, so if there's nothing further at this time, no further business to come before the board, I will make the recommendation that we adjourn the meeting, except I don't have a time in front of me. Hold on.
9:35.
All right, I've got 9:36 on my computer. I'm going with that one.
As you
So we
wish.
can adjourn. We can adjourn at 9:36 p.m.
Okay.
Am I supposed to say anything else on that?
Stephen?
All right. Everybody, thank you for your time, your patience. I know the meeting was long. We had a lot of important things we started to discuss and some drawn out things, but we need to, in some ways, we're falling down to sins of the past, but we're going to move forward and correct as much as we can. And again, thank you for attending, and have a great evening.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Super quick, I did just send you an email.